All right, and we are on episode 5, man. SummerSlam Night 1 review, and I've decided to do the tier list format for this. So, real quick, I'm going to go over the tiers. We got 5 being the best, 4, 3, 2, 1 being the worst. I will say, of all the 6 matches on tonight's show, there has not been one that is going to go below a 3. This was a very, very solid show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm going to get right into it and go match by match. I did write some notes down, but I'm just going to freestyle it. Because I know for Brock and Oba, I didn't write anything down. So we'll start with Io and Liv. And I'm going to put this match in the 5 tier. I enjoy the hell out of this match. I will even go as far as to say that this is the match of the night. It really is. I enjoyed it that much. Such great work from Io and Liv. Yes, the Judgment Day interfered, but once Io dispatched of the Judgment Day, it was just those two one-on-one. And Liv pretty much won clean, if you ignore the earlier interference with the Judgment Day. Notable spots in this match. The German suplex. It was Io giving Liv Morgan a German suplex on the apron that looked absolutely disgusting. And then they followed that up with Io's bullet train attack into the post while Liv was on the apron. That looked nuts. And then they moved on to the finishing sequence where they got back in the ring. Liv Morgan would go for the Oblivion, and then Io would counter with a headstand out of it. And if you remember, it was the same counter that Io used against Bayley at WrestleMania 40 when Bayley went for the Rose Plant, and she did that handstand to counter the move. It was the same spot, but it looked so great. But even after that, Liv would still hit the code breaker or the lung blower or whatever she calls the knees to the chest face area, and then hit the Oblivion for the win. Also, when I did write this down, on the pre-show, I liked the fact that it was one of the announcers. It was either Jackie Rittman, I don't know who it was, or I don't remember who it was, but they acknowledged the fact that Liv has not defended the title in 100 days. So I like the fact that they're at least in storyline acknowledging it, and it's adding to Liv Morgan's character of being annoying. As you could probably hear in the background, the post show is on right now, and Liv is on panel talking about how she is the greatest world women's champion of all time. And I mean, after this performance tonight, I don't want to hear any more, and I'm sure I'm going to see criticism online, but I will not have it. I will not have any more criticism of Liv. You can criticize the way that she's been booked. That's fair. She has not defended the title since WrestleMania. That is fair critique as far as her booking goes. But Liv in the ring, I don't want to hear any more critiques about it. Liv can go. And we already know Io can go. And this is getting posted to Wrestling Fanatics, and we were discussing this in the thread. And I want to shout out James Chow on Wrestling Fanatics. I really do, because he has a theory that Io Sky is going to be the mystery woman tomorrow night in the ladder match, and could possibly win and go on to face Rhea Ripley for the Undisputed Women's World Champion, or for the WWE Women's Championship. And I had not even thought of that as being a possibility. And I think that would be really cool if that is the direction that they go. So shout out to James Chow for that suggestion and for his prediction there. But I'm just, so we are clear, I'm still sticking with AJ Lee. That's my prediction, as noted in my last video. So moving on, we have a 6-man tag team match. It was the Usos and, the Bloodline versus Royce Keys, LA Knight, and Solo Sikoa. Also, before I move on, I was right about Liv Morgan retaining. So, there we go. And I even did say it would be clean, and it was kind of clean. So moving on to the six-man tag team match of the Bloodline versus Royce Keys and LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. I was wrong. I did predict that the Bloodline would win due to Solo Sikoa turning, but that did not happen. But I'm still not convinced that it's not going to happen down the road. I do think that this is just a chapter that they're telling in this story. So I do think eventually Solo is going to eventually turn and join the Bloodline. But I will say, Solo as a babyface is hilarious. I mean, this dude is entertaining. Even in the match, he did the run it back while he was in the ring with Jey Uso. Now, what would have been cool to me is if he would have did the run it back and they would have played Solo's music, because Solo's music is a banger. You know, I could sit here and shit on Def Rebel, all day about their music these days, but that is one song from Def Rebel that I do like, is Solo's theme. But he did the run it back and they played Jay's theme, and he did the yeet, and he did Jacob's taunt, shaking taunt. Solo is just entertaining, man. He really was. This match concluded with LA Knight getting the pin on Jey Uso, as Jimmy and Jay were going to set up LA Knight for the 1D. Solo Sikoa got the Samoan Spike on Jimmy, taking him out. And then Jay would run right into Blunt Force Trauma by LA Knight for the win. I'm going to put this match in the 4 category. This was entertaining. One critique I have is the ad placement of, 2 critiques actually. The ad placement for the Gears of War game, having the Bloodline come out with the props on the stage was just completely unnecessary. When I get to the end of the video, I'll talk about my overall experience of what I thought of the ad placement, but that was dumb. And this is for Jimmy and Jay. Just stop doing the spear. Like, you're not Roman Reigns, you're not Braun Breaker. It just doesn't look good. It just never looks convincing. And they both hit a spear on LA Knight. And I think it was Jimmy that hit the spear, or Jay hit the spear, and then Jimmy did the splash on LA Knight, and he kicked out. And not for one moment did I think that the spear was going to keep LA down. So I just wish the Usos would just stop doing the spear and just stick to the super kicks and the Samoan splashes. So that's going to get a 4. Gunther versus Nick Aldis. I have to say that I am not familiar with Nick Aldis' work outside of WWE. The majority of the wrestling I do watch is WWE. So for me, I was looking forward to this just to see what Nick Aldis would do, how he would look. And the dude looked like $1 million, I will say. And Gunther is Gunther. This match was good. I really enjoyed this match. I thought Nick Aldis looked good. I said in my prediction video that I think if Nick Aldis just have a good showing, then that would be good enough for me personally. It really didn't matter if he won or lost. I think that he did lose, and that was the right decision to have Gunther win, considering the fact that Gunther is a full-time wrestler, and Nick Aldis, as of now, is still an on-screen GM. So I'm going to put this match also in the 4 tier. I'll rearrange the matches later as far as where I'll put them. Alright, so coming up next, we have the second 6-person tag team match of the night. I did talk about this in my prediction video. This is nitpicky, but I wouldn't have 2 of the same stipulation matches on the same night. You could have easily separated those, but it is what it is. So we got Fatal Influence versus Nikki, Brie, and Paige. This is going to go here. This wasn't bad. I will say, objectively, that Nikki, Brie, and Paige, of course, they look good. Visually, they look good, of course, but I mean, in the ring, they look fine. But really don't have a desire to see the Bellas in 2026. You know, Paige, I do want to see her have, one last run. But the Bellas, I'm just not a fan. And I just don't have a desire to see them. This match was fine. The right team won. I predicted Fatal Influence to win, but it goes in the 3 tier. One thing I do want to talk about is the ending of the match where the Bellas would turn on Paige, because it was Paige that actually took the pinfall. JC Jane did her roaring elbow or discus punch. It looked kind of like a punch to me, but anyway, Paige got pinned, and then the Bellas turned on Paige. Well, Nikki specifically attacked her. Brie may have hurt her shoulder because she was really holding her shoulder during the post match angle. And I think she just did like one kick to Paige while Nikki was just beating her down. But please, someone explain this booking to me. At WrestleMania, it was announced that Nikki Bella was injured. Like, we saw her come out on the stage, on the crutch at WrestleMania. And it was her that announced Paige as her replacement. So now, why now that Nikki Bella is back, that Nikki Bella is claiming that Paige took her spot? Because right before the camera faded to the next scene, Nikki was like, "Nobody takes my spot." And I'm just like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, Nikki Bella, the character, you announced Paige as your replacement. And now you're claiming that, oh, you're back and no one takes my spot. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the first thing. Secondly, on SmackDown, we already have enough female heels. We have Jay Cargill and the Baddies, and then we have Fatal Influence. So now we have two women. We have two heel women factions already on SmackDown, and now the Bellas are heel. So it's too many heels. I feel like, and I think that they should move this program to Raw if they're gonna do this, because I don't feel like there's enough real estate on SmackDown. But that's just my opinion. I'm not on the booker. I'm not on the booking team. I'm not on the writing team. I'm just a fan with an opinion with a YouTube channel. And that is my 2 cents for what it's worth. So that match goes in 3. We go to Punk and Cody, which was the co-main event. And I am going to put this match in the 5 category, and this may or may not be a hot take. Well, maybe it is a hot take, but I'm putting this match behind Liv and Io. I am still 10 toes down. I say Liv versus Io is the match of the night. But this match definitely did not disappoint. This was just a great wrestling match. And then you had the return, of course, of Randy Orton, which is what I predicted would happen. But the funny thing about it is I did predict Randy Orton's return, but even though I knew it was coming, I still popped. I was still, like, legitimately excited. I was like, oh, shit, it's Randy Orton, even though I predicted it. But, Punk did the elbow drop, or attempted to elbow drop Cody through the announce table and completely missed. And this just looked awful. This was like the worst landing through an announce table I think I've ever seen, that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, this just looked rough. They got back into the ring, and Cody would go for the crossroads. He would hit it, Punk would kick out. Then Punk would hit the GTS. Cody would kick out. Cody would get Punk in position for the crossroads again. He would hit the crossroads, but the momentum of Punk, bouncing from the crossroads would send him on the outside of the ring. And this is when I knew that Orton was going to show up. But I forgot a spot, though. The referee had to be bumped. So in order for the referee to be bumped, Cody would go for the, I'm just going to call it the OG cutter, because that's exactly what it was. but he meant to hit it on Punk, and he bumped into Charles Robertson, the referee, and then that's what set all that into motion with everything that I explained just a few seconds ago. So with the referee down, Punk is on the outside of the ring, which was smart for him to sell that way, so that way Punk couldn't know that Orton interfered, and no one could implicate Punk as having being the one to set that up. And anyway, Orton would hit the RKO, he would hit that wink, Punk would get back into the ring, hit the GTS for the 1, 2, 3. Awesome match. Awesome match. So I'm gonna put that. I put that in 5. And now we're gonna go with the main event, and it's not gonna go in 5. I'm gonna put it in 4, and I'm gonna put this behind Gunther and Aldis. Well, yeah, I'm gonna put it behind this the 6-man tag match as well. So there's some problems with this match that I want to talk about. Great match. Right person won. Oba went over. When you have a Hell in a Cell match, the point of the Hell in a Cell is you want to use the cell itself as a weapon. That's the selling point for the Hell in a Cell. And they did not use the cell at all. I think it was one spot where it was either Brock or Oba, but they did the Irish whip into the cell. And that was it. That was the only use of the cell that we saw. They used tables, they used chairs, they used the steel steps. This was just basically a street fight, which it could have just been that. This Hell in a Cell was completely pointless. And something else that I want to point out, visually, I'm like watching it on TV was fine, but they did like this wide camera shot while the cell was coming down. And you saw a wide shot of the entire stadium. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's hard enough to see in a stadium as if you're far away. But can you imagine sitting up there in the nosebleeds? You can barely see the wrestlers as is, but now you have a big ass cage, surrounding them. So now you really can't see, and I just have to imagine that has to be a horrible viewing experience if you're live in a stadium. Now, me personally, I have gone to a WWE event where there was a Hell in a Cell. It was Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, and it was in an arena. So it was, but you could see, even with the cell being there, I was like maybe second level off the floor, but I could still see perfectly fine in an arena. And watching Shane McMahon jump off that cell live is insane, but I'm digressing. The point is, Hell in a Cell in a stadium is gotta be awful, because from what I saw on TV, I could not imagine that anyone could see what was going on inside that cell. So I mentioned all the weapons that they use. So let's talk about the ending spot here. Brock Lesnar, he tears apart the ring, the flooring of the ring. He rips apart the canvas, and he exposes the canvas all the way down to the wooden boards of the ring. Now, if you remember, this is the same thing they did when Brock Lesnar and Undertaker had their match in 2015. Undertaker hit a tombstone on Brock on the boards in that match. So Brock paid tribute to that and hit Oba with a tombstone on the boards. But the way that he set it up was he set it up like it was going to be an F5. So he had Oba on the shoulders like he was going to F5 him on the boards, which honestly probably would have been better in my opinion. But he switched it and then tombstone Oba on the boards. And I'm telling you right now, as I sat here and watched that, I completely lost my shit watching that. I was like, oh, that was so cool. But then Oba, no-sold it. And I was like, oh, man, he just no-sold it. And he got up and he hit Brock with the fall from grace. And I am almost, I will say I am 90% sure that Oba was probably supposed to hit the power bomb on the wooden boards, but he just missed. And then that was the 3 count, and I was like, oh man. But and actually, I when I watched the replay of the power bomb, as soon as Oba power bomb Brock, I watched Brock kind of look to see where he was at, and just to see if he would hit the board, but he didn't hit the boards. But one thing I will say, after the match was over, Brock Lesnar cut a promo, and he basically said, "I am the past. This guy is the future." Gave him a hug and shook his hand, and gave him the biggest endorsement that you can possibly give. And he really did pass the torch. So I'll put that match. Well, I'm going to go over all the matches again to explain why I put them where I put them at. So I just put the women's 6-man tag team match because I just felt like that was the least performed match of the card. Not saying it was horrible, not saying it was bad, but it was just not better than the rest of the 5 matches. I've got Brock and Oba in tier 4, simply because they didn't use the cell itself enough. They didn't use the cell enough to justify having a Hell in a Cell match, but it was still very entertaining. The 6-man tag team match was good. That goes in a 4. Do I want to put that? You know what? Yeah, let's switch that. Let's put that there because Gunther versus Nick Aldis was really good. So we'll put the 6-man tag there, and I'm sticking with my top 5. I think Liv and Io killed it. I think Liv and Io had the match of the night by far, for sure. And I will put Punk and Cody right behind them. All right, so everything is locked in. When you average everything together, you got 2 5s, 3 4s, and 1 3. You come up with about a 3 average. I will say that I went into this show very apprehensively because I do think that the build for SummerSlam was awful, especially judging off of last Monday night's Raw. SmackDown was slightly better, but yeah, the build wasn't good, but the show was serviceable for sure. So we will see how night 2 stacks up against night 1. Night 2 is getting a 3.3. So I will do night 2 review in this same format. And that is going to conclude this episode of Wrestling Fanatics. I'm Warren Freeman. I'm signing out. You guys have a blessed night.